Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. That simple phrase holds the key to transforming your life from where you are to where you want to be. You see, it's not enough to have ambition. It's not enough to have big dreams or bold intentions. Everyone dreams. Everyone has wishes. But what separates those who simply wish for success from those who actually achieve it is discipline. Now let's think for a moment. What is a goal? A goal is the picture of a better future. It's a vision of where you want to go. You write it down. You feel inspired. Maybe you even get started. But soon, the excitement begins to fade. The initial burst of motivation weakens. That's natural. It happens to all of us. But it's here right at that moment where discipline becomes your best friend or your worst enemy. Because motivation may get you going, but discipline is what keeps you growing. Discipline means doing what you said you would do long after the mood in which you said it has left you. That's the test. Anyone can set the alarm for 5 a.m., but it takes discipline to get up when it rings. Anyone can buy a book on success, but it takes discipline to study it every day. Discipline is following through, day in and day out, on the small decisions that compound into big results. That's the bridge. It's not glamorous. It's not always exciting, but it is effective. In fact, it's the only way to get from desire to result. Why is it a bridge? Because there is always a gap between where you are and where you want to be. You don't get to cross that gap just because you hope to. Hope is not a strategy. Hope needs help, and that help is called discipline. Imagine standing on the edge of a cliff with your dream on the other side. You've drawn the blueprint in your mind, but unless you build that bridge, one disciplined action at a time, you'll stay right where you are. Discipline is what allows you to rise above your feeling. Because let's face it, you're not always going to feel like doing the work. You're not always going to be in the mood to stick to the plan. The weather won't always be perfect. The people around you won't always be encouraging. But discipline is internal. It's the quiet voice that says, do it anyway. It's the internal standard that refuses to let you settle for anything less than your best. And here's something to remember. Discipline doesn't take away your freedom. It creates it. That may sound backwards, but it's the truth. The more disciplined you become, the freer you become, financially, emotionally, professionally. You're not a slave to moods. You're not at the mercy of every distraction. You gain control over your time, your focus, your energy. Discipline buys back your life. It gives you the freedom to say yes to your future by saying no to lesser things today. Now, discipline isn't something you're born with. It's not a genetic gift. It's a skill, and like any skill, it can be developed. You begin small. You stay consistent. You keep promises to yourself, even if they're minor. You build integrity brick by brick, and each time you follow through, your confidence grows. You prove to yourself that you can be counted on. That's when real change begins. Not when the world believes in you, but when you believe. So when you write your goals down, and I hope you do, don't just ask yourself what you want. Ask yourself what you're willing to give up to get it. Are you willing to give up comfort? Are you willing to give up excuses? Are you willing to give up the habit of quitting when it gets tough? Because every accomplishment has a price, and discipline is how you pay it. In the end, your future isn't determined by chance. It's determined by choice. And your ability to make and keep disciplined choices every day will shape the course of your life. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait for the right feeling. The time is now. The bridge is discipline. Start walking. Daily habits form long-term destiny. That's not just a clever phrase. It's a truth that governs every successful life. You see, we don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our system. And the most powerful system we can create is made of our habits. Those small, consistent behaviors we repeat day in and day out, almost without thinking. These habits shape our mindset, our productivity, our health, our finances, and ultimately our future. It's easy to underestimate the power of small things. A 5-minute decision doesn't seem like it could change your life. Waking up 30 minutes early, choosing a book over television, saving $10 instead of spending it. These all feel minor in the moment. But the truth is, it's never just about that one choice. It's about who you're becoming every time you make that choice. Habits are not just actions. They are votes for the type of person you want to become. Think about it. You don't become fit by going to the gym once. You become fit by showing up regularly. You don't become wise by reading one book. You become wise by reading daily. You don't become financially secure by making one smart investment. You build wealth through consistent financial discipline. That's the power of compounding, of small efforts repeated over time. Every great achievement is built on the back of hundreds, even thousands of small disciplined steps. And here's the beauty of it. Habits are automatic. Once established, they run like software in the background of your life. That's why building the right habits is so critical. You don't have to rely on willpower every single day. Once a habit is formed, the momentum takes over. But that works both ways. If your habits are destructive, if you've trained yourself to procrastinate, to react emotionally, to avoid discomfort, those habits will also run on autopilot, quietly steering your life in the wrong direction. Your future self is being created today, not tomorrow. And it's being created in the quiet moments when nobody is watching. It's not just about what you do when the spotlight is on. It's about what you do in the early morning hours when no one's up. It's about what you do at night, when no one will know if you studied or watched TV. These daily decisions stack up. They either build your destiny or delay it. We tend to overvalue the dramatic and undervalue the consistent. It's easy to admire the person who suddenly transforms, loses weight, builds a business, or becomes a speaker. But we rarely see the years of daily choices behind that success. The early mornings, the disciplined evenings, the countless times they showed up when it was hard. Success isn't built in a day, it's built daily. And remember this, habits don't just affect what you do, they affect how you think. Repeated behaviors shape your mindset. Wake up early long enough, and you start believing you're a morning person. Stick to a workout schedule, and you start seeing yourself as someone who values health. Save consistently, and you see yourself as someone who is financially responsible. Identity grows out of behavior. And once your identity changes, your destiny begins to shift. So how do you build the right habits? You start small. Don't aim to run 10 miles a day if you haven't run in years. Start with 10 minutes. Make it easy to win, and then stay consistent. Habits aren't about intensity. They're about consistency. It's better to read 5 pages a day every day than 50 pages once a month. It's better to walk daily than run once and give up. It's not how much you do, it's how often you do. You must also design your environment to support your habits. Make the good habit easier and the bad habit harder. Want to read more? Put the book on your pillow. Want to eat healthier? Remove junk food from the house. The more friction you remove from the right behavior, the easier it becomes to repeat. Habits are not just about self-control. They're about self-design. In the end, your habits today are the preview of your future. If you want to know where you're headed, look at what you repeatedly do. Your routines are writing the script of your life. So choose wisely, be intentional, because every day you live is another brick in the foundation of your destiny. Build it with purpose, build it with discipline, and the future you dream of will become the future you. Self-discipline begins with self-awareness. Before you can control your actions, you must first understand them. And more importantly, you must understand yourself. Most people try to fix their habits without first examining the patterns behind them. They try to force change without identifying the thoughts, emotions, and triggers that drive their behavior. That's like trying to fix a leak without knowing where the water is coming from. It may work temporarily, but the problem always returns. Self-awareness is the foundation of all lasting change. It is the ability to observe your own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors without judgment. It's being able to ask, why do I do what I do? And answer honestly. Why do you procrastinate on certain tasks? Why do you give in to distractions? Why do you start strong but fade after a few days or weeks? These aren't just surface habits. They're rooted in deeper emotional and mental patterns. Until you uncover those roots, discipline will always feel like a battle. To build discipline, you have to first recognize your tendencies. When do you perform at your best? What kind of environment helps you focus? What people inspire or drain you? What times of day do you feel most motivated or most distracted? Discipline isn't one size fits all. You have to work with your nature, not against it. And that starts with paying attention. Keep a journal. Track your routines. Reflect on your wins and losses. The more you observe, the more you learn. And the more you learn, the more power you have to make meaningful changes. One of the most important aspects of self-awareness is recognizing your triggers, the things that lead you off track. Maybe it's stress, maybe it's boredom, maybe it's fatigue. These are the moments when discipline tends to break down. But if you can identify these triggers, you can prepare for them. You can create strategies to respond rather than react. You can build a buffer between impulse and action. You stop being controlled by your feelings and start choosing your responses with intention. It's also important to understand your inner dialogue. What do you say to yourself when you're struggling? Do you speak with encouragement or criticism? Many people fail at discipline not because they lack willpower, but because they constantly sabotage themselves with negative self-talk. I'm just lazy. I always mess up. I'll never change. These beliefs shape your identity, and your identity shapes your actions. If you want to behave differently, you must believe differently. Self-awareness allows you to catch those thoughts, challenge them, and replace them with something more empowering. Another key to self-awareness is knowing your why. Why do you want to be more disciplined? What is driving you? What matters enough to you that you're willing to endure discomfort and delay gratification? Without a strong why, discipline feels like punishment. With a strong why, it feels like purpose. You're not just saying no to junk food or laziness or procrastination. You're saying yes to health, excellence, and growth. Discipline becomes an act of alignment, not restriction. It becomes a way of honoring who you truly are and what you value most. Self-awareness also helps you stay humble. It reminds you that you're human. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fall short sometimes. But discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about being persistent. It's about noticing when you've strayed and gently bringing yourself back. No guilt, no shame, just awareness and adjustment. That's how progress is made, through honest self-reflection and a willingness to learn from every experience. And here's the beautiful part. The more self-aware you become, the easier discipline gets. You no longer waste energy trying to be someone you're not. You work with your strength. You address your weaknesses with compassion, not condemnation. You build systems that match your personality, your goals, and your lifestyle. You stop copying other people's routines and start designing your own path, one that actually fits you. So if you want to master self-discipline, don't start with rules, start with reflection. Get to know yourself, understand your patterns, listen to your inner voice. That's where the real work begins. Because when you truly know yourself, you don't just act with discipline, you live with intention. And that's the kind of discipline that doesn't just last a week or a month. It lasts a lifetime. Environment influences behavior more than most people realize. If you're struggling with self-discipline, it may not be a problem with your willpower. It may be a problem with your surroundings. People often try to force discipline through sheer effort, without ever questioning whether the environment they're living and working in supports the habits they want to build. But the truth is, your surroundings can either help you rise or quietly pull you back down, day after day, without you even noticing. We tend to think of behavior as a matter of character or choice. And while those things matter, your environment plays an enormous role in shaping how you act. Just think about how easy it is to eat junk food when it's sitting right there on the kitchen counter. Or how hard it is to focus when your phone is buzzing every 5 minutes. Or how difficult it becomes to stay committed to your goals when the people around you constantly doubt you, distract you, or discourage your growth. Your environment can either push you toward your goals or pull you away from them. Discipline isn't just about saying no more often. It's about designing your life so you have to say no less often. In other words, make the right thing easy and the wrong thing hard. If you want to read more, keep a book on your nightstand, or if you want to eat healthier, stock your fridge with clean options and keep the junk out of sight, or better yet, out of the house. If you want to be more productive, declutter your workspace and silence unnecessary notifications. These small changes reduce the friction of doing what you know you should do, and that's what makes disciplined choices sustainable. One of the most overlooked parts of your environment is the people in it. Who you spend time with matters. If you're constantly surrounded by people who complain, make excuses, or avoid growth, it becomes much harder to stay committed to your goals. Not because you don't have discipline, but because energy is contagious, so is attitude. And if everyone around you is moving in the opposite direction, eventually their current starts to pull you with it. Now, this doesn't mean you have to cut people out of your life completely, but it does mean you need to be intentional. Seek out relationships that challenge you, inspire you, and hold you accountable. Find mentors, join groups, or build friendships with people who are also committed to discipline and self-improvement. Being in the right environment means being in the right company, because people either feed your fire or drain it. Your digital environment matters too. What you consume daily, the news, the social media, the videos, the content. These things shape your mindset, your beliefs, and your energy. If you're constantly feeding your mind negativity, drama, or distractions, don't be surprised when your motivation disappears and your discipline crumbles. Choose your inputs wisely. Follow people who teach, not just entertain. Read things that stretch your thinking, not just echo your existing views. Fill your environment with things that make you better, not just busier. Even your routines can become part of your environment, where you do your work, when you start your day, what you see when you first wake up. If your day starts in chaos, it's hard to recover. But if your environment is set up with structure, your day tends to follow that structure. That's why morning routines and nighttime habits are so powerful. They set the tone for everything in between. You don't need an elaborate system. You just need to be consistent with the signals you send yourself. This is a place of focus. This is a time for growth. This is who I am becoming. Self-discipline becomes much easier when your environment is aligned with your values. Because then, every time you step into that space, whether it's your room, your office, your gym, or even your calendar, you're reminded of who you want to be. You're not constantly battling temptation. You're reinforcing identity. And that's what discipline is really about. It's not just control, it's alignment. So if you want to be more disciplined, don't just work harder, design better, shape your space, guard your influences, set yourself up for success, not struggle. When your environment is working for you, not against you, discipline stops feeling like a fight and starts feeling like a flow. That's how you make good choices, automatic, and how you let your surroundings support the life you're trying to build. Delayed gratification is the hallmark of achievers. It's the ability to resist a smaller short-term reward in favor of a larger long-term gain. And make no mistake, this single trait is what separates those who succeed from those who settle. In a world obsessed with quick fixes, overnight success, and instant results, the person who can wait, who can stay the course, who can work in silence and trust the process, has an incredible advantage. Because the greatest rewards in life are not given to those who want them now, but to those who are willing to wait, to work, and to endure. You see, the path to any meaningful success, whether it's health, wealth, relationships, or personal growth, is paved with daily sacrifice. It's about choosing to do what's right over what's easy. It's about turning down comfort now so you can enjoy confidence later. And that's not always a glamorous process. In fact, it's often uncomfortable. But every time you choose long-term value over short-term pleasure, you strengthen your character and you deepen your discipline. Delayed gratification isn't just a tactic, it's a mindset. It's the understanding that the best things in life require time, patience, and persistent effort. It's knowing that the reward you're working toward is worth more than the temporary satisfaction you're turning down. When you live with this mindset, you don't get easily distracted by what's flashy or convenient. You keep your eyes on the vision. You keep your actions aligned with the outcome you desire, not the feeling of the moment. Now let's be honest, this isn't easy. We're all tempted by comfort. We all feel the pull of right now, the desire to skip the workout, to eat the fast food, to binge the entertainment, instead of building the dream. But every time you give in to short-term pleasure at the expense of long-term gain, you delay your growth. You exchange future excellence for present ease. And that's a trade too many people make without even realizing it. Think of the student who chooses to study a little longer instead of scrolling through their phone, or the entrepreneur who reinvests their earnings instead of spending them, or the individual who wakes up early every morning to work on their goals before the world wakes up. These are not acts of luck. These are conscious decisions based on the principle of delayed gratification. They've trained themselves to say, not yet, even when everything inside them says, why not now? Here's something powerful. The more you practice delayed gratification, the easier it gets. At first, it feels unnatural. Your instincts want comfort. Your emotions want reward. But over time, as you start seeing results from your patience and discipline, a shift happens. You begin to crave progress more than pleasure. You start to enjoy the process as much as the prize. And eventually, you become someone who's willing to do what others won't, so you can live how others can't. Success is never just about what you do. It's about what you're willing to not do, not quit, not give in, not settle. That's what delayed gratification looks like. It's not about being perfect. It's about being purposeful. You don't have to reject all pleasure. You just have to choose which pleasure matters more, the thrill of a moment or the satisfaction of a mission accomplished, the high of now or the pride of later. There's a reason why the most disciplined people often live the most fulfilled lives. It's not because they deny themselves joy. It's because they delay it for something great. They understand that the price of success is paid in advance, that the hard work comes before the harvest, that true confidence is built by doing the right thing, especially when it's the hard thing. So ask yourself, what do you want most? And what are you willing to give up to get? That's the real test. Anyone can wish, anyone can start, but those who win, the real achievers, are the ones who master the art of waiting, the art of working without constant reward, and the art of choosing what matters most over what feels good now. Train yourself to delay the small pleasures so you can secure the big ones. Build the muscle of restraint. Respect the process. Because in the end, the people who live the lives others admire are the ones who were willing to wait while others rushed, to sacrifice while others splurged, and to stay focused while others got distracted. That's the power of delayed gratification. And it's the mark of someone who's serious about success. Accountability is one of the most powerful forces behind self-discipline. It turns vague intentions into real commitment. It takes your goals out of your head and places them into the world where they can be measured, challenged, and pursued with focus. When you hold yourself accountable or allow others to hold you accountable, you create structure. And structure is what makes discipline sustainable. Most people fail at discipline not because they don't have good intentions, but because they keep their intentions private. They say things like, I'm going to get in shape, or I'm going to start waking up early. But they never create a system to ensure they follow through. Without a structure, those goals are just wishes. But when you attach accountability, whether personal or external, everything changes. You no longer just hope to follow through. You expect to. Self-accountability begins with honesty. You have to be willing to tell yourself the truth about your habits, your results, and your level of effort. That's not easy. It's uncomfortable to look in the mirror and admit when you didn't give your best. But without that honesty, there's no progress. You can't improve what you won't confront. So start by tracking your actions. Measure what matters. If you say you're going to work out 5 days a week, write it down. If you say you're going to spend an hour reading every morning, record your time. Numbers don't lie. They will show you where you're consistent and where you're not. And when you fall short, don't beat yourself up. That's not what accountability is for. Accountability isn't about guilt. It's about growth. It's about recognizing the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and using that awareness as fuel to close the distance. It's not about being perfect. It's about being responsible. Every setback is a chance to learn. Every off day is a chance to recommit. That's how strong habits are built. Not by avoiding failure, but by responding to it with maturity and intention. But self-accountability isn't always enough. Sometimes the most effective form of accountability is external. When you bring someone else into your goals, a coach, a mentor, a friend, you introduce a powerful level of commitment. Why? Because now your progress matters to someone other than yourself. You're no longer just letting yourself down if you give up. You're letting someone else down too. That kind of pressure, when used the right way, can push you to a whole new level of consistency. Think of athletes. They don't just train on their own schedule, with their own motivation. They have coaches, teammates, performance metrics, reviews. If they miss a workout, someone notices. If they slack off, someone calls it out. That's not a burden. That's a system. It's a structure designed to keep them aligned with their goals. You can build the same thing in your life. Join a mastermind group. Hire a coach. Partner with someone who's on a similar journey. Create check-ins. Set deadlines. Share your progress. These things create urgency and raise your standards. Accountability also shapes identity. The more you follow through on what you said you'd do, the more confident you become in your own word. And that's one of the most powerful forms of self-respect, to know that when you make a promise to yourself, you'll keep it. That builds trust. That builds inner strength. And that, more than motivation or willpower, is what drives long-term discipline. At the same time, don't wait until everything's perfect to start holding yourself accountable. Start now, with whatever tools and support you have. Make it simple. Set a small goal. Tell someone about it. Track your progress. Reflect on the results. Discipline grows through action, not planning. The longer you wait to commit, the more likely you are to drift. But the moment you create a system to hold yourself accountable, you shift from wishful thinking to intentional living. In the end, discipline isn't something you just turn on when you feel motivated. It's something you build through structure, through support, and through consistent, honest reflection. Accountability is the bridge between your goals and your growth. It's what keeps you on course when distractions call, when emotions rise, and when old habits try to resurface. When you make accountability a daily practice, discipline stops being a struggle and starts becoming a way of life. The journey of mastering self-discipline is not just about pushing yourself harder. It's about doing the work consistently, especially when you least feel like it. Consistency is the great equalizer, and you don't have to be the smartest, the strongest, or the most talented. If you show up every day and put in the work, you will outlast and outperform most people over time. That's the secret most people miss. Discipline doesn't always. Sometimes it's just a quiet, steady commitment to doing what needs to be done, over and over again. Consistency builds momentum. At first, the progress might feel invisible. You won't always see instant results. And that's where most people quit. They confuse slow progress with no progress. But discipline understands that small actions, repeated daily, lead to massive results over time. Think about water dripping on a rock. One drop doesn't make a difference, but over time, it carves through stone. That's the power of consistent effort. You have to fall in love with the process. If you only work when you feel motivated, you won't get very far. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes. Some days you'll wake up inspired and ready. Other days, you won't want to get out of bed. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is that successful people show up anyway. They don't wait for the perfect conditions. They act in spite of how they feel. That's real discipline. Doing the thing even when you don't feel like doing the thing. Consistency also builds trust with yourself. Every time you follow through on what you said you'd do, you're casting a vote for the type of person you want to become. You're reinforcing the belief that you're dependable, that your word means something, that you have what it takes. And when you trust yourself, you become unstoppable, because then you don't just hope you'll follow through. You know you will. That inner certainty is what drives long-term success. Now that doesn't mean you won't face obstacles. Life will throw distractions, delays, and detours in your path. There will be setbacks, failures, and days when you question why you started. But consistency isn't about perfection. It's about perseverance. Missing one day doesn't ruin your progress. Quitting does. So if you fall off track, don't beat yourself up. Get back on. Learn from it. Reset. And recommit. That's the mindset that keeps you going, even when it's tough. To stay consistent, you need systems, not just willpower. Willpower fades, especially when you're tired or stressed. But a good system keeps you grounded. A routine that supports your goals, a calendar that reflects your priorities, a set of habits that align with your values. These are the tools of consistency. They reduce the number of decisions you have to make and increase the likelihood that you'll do what needs to be done. Start small. Don't try to change everything at once. Focus on one habit at a time. Do it daily. Track your progress. Celebrate your streak. And when it gets boring, because it will, remember that boredom is not a sign to stop. It's a sign that the habit is becoming part of you. Boring is good. It means you've moved past the initial resistance and entered into rhythm. That's when real transformation begins. Also, give yourself grace. Self-discipline isn't about beating yourself up for every mistake. It's about bouncing back better. It's about learning, adjusting, and continuing forward. Consistency isn't about being hard on yourself. It's about being honest with yourself. Did you show up today? Did you do your best? Even if your best today was only 60% of what it was yesterday, that's still a win. Progress, not perfection. Over time, consistency compounds. The results start to show. Your mindset sharpens. Your confidence grows. Your goals, once distant, start to feel achievable. Not because you took massive action all at once, but because you took consistent action over time. And that's how all great things are built. Not in a day, but day by day. In the end, consistency is it's choosing to keep showing up, to keep growing, to keep believing, even when it's hard. It's the quiet daily discipline of doing the work, and it's what turns dreams into reality. Not through luck, not through shortcuts, but through steady, committed effort. If you want to master self-discipline, make consistency your foundation, because when you become consistent, you become unstoppable.